All right, get ready, because today we're going deep into the world of German cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah?
We're doing a deep dive into the IT-Grundschutz methodology.
It's really fascinating, actually, IT-Grundschutz.
Yeah.
What makes it so interesting is that it's not just, some theoretical framework.
Right.
It was developed by the German Federal Office for Information Security, the BSI,
Right.
and organizations worldwide actually use this living guide to boost their security.
When I first came across IT-Grundschutz, I have to admit, it sounded a little intimidating. 111 security building blocks.
I can imagine.
Like the whole Bible of cybersecurity, right? It covers everything.
Yeah, it really does.
But as you start to dig in,
Yeah.
it's actually, the structure is pretty brilliant.
It is, yeah.
And it's surprisingly practical.
It's like they just sat down and said, okay, let's map out every possible security scenario an organization might face.
Yeah.
And then provide practical solutions.
Yeah,
And that's exactly what they did.
like from physical security. Yeah.
All the way to how you code for cloud applications.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all in there.
The document really highlights a bunch of these common threats,
Mm-hmm.
like losing devices or data manipulation, unauthorized access, even system failure.
All right. All those things you don't want to think about.
Yeah, and it seems like it's all about preparing for what could actually happen.
Absolutely.
Not just like hypothetical what-if scenarios.
Like, imagine you lose a device with sensitive employee data on it. Or
Yeah.
what if you have a sudden server crash
Yeah.
that just brings everything to a halt?
Yeah.
These are the everyday nightmares that IT-Grundschutz helps you prepare for.
So how does it approach this huge range of threats?
Yeah.
Because 111 building blocks.
It's a lot, right?
It's a lot to think about.
That's where the building block structure really shines, I think. It's this really smart approach. It breaks cybersecurity down into manageable chunks, these building blocks.
Okay.
Each one tackles a specific IT element or process.
Right. And offers practical guidance.
All right, so this is what I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
There are 3 layers of protection:
Yes.
basis, standard, and high.
Exactly.
It's like they realize that not all data needs to be protected the same.
That's a really good point.
It's not all Fort Knox.
Right. It's about proportionality.
Yeah.
Not every piece of information has the same value or requires that same level of security.
Right.
IT-Grundschutz really lets you implement those security measures based on that actual risk.
Okay.
It's a really efficient approach.
So to give us a better idea of what we're really talking about,
Yeah.
let's look at some specific examples from some of these categories.
Okay. Sounds good.
So let's start with infrastructure.
Okay. So think physical security,
Right.
securing buildings, server rooms, and even home offices.
Oh, I like that they acknowledge that.
Oh, it's so important. The lines are getting blurry
Yeah.
between the traditional office
Exactly.
and working from home.
Especially with so many people working remotely.
Absolutely. It's a huge vulnerability if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond just locking your door,
Right.
thinking about fire suppression systems, securing your backup data,
Okay.
even thinking about the physical placement of things like power outlets to prevent trips and falls that could damage equipment.
So they really make you think about all of this.
They do.
Now let's move on to software.
Okay.
Another huge area.
Huge, yeah.
And it looks like IT-Grundschutz gets into a lot of detail about secure software development.
From code analysis to patch management, coding practices for specific software like SAP, ABAP.
Wow.
Integrating security throughout that whole development process is crucial
Okay.
because those vulnerabilities,
Right.
they can really impact your whole organization.
Okay. I have to admit, I actually chuckled when I saw that IT-Grundschutz even talks about the security concerns of fax machines.
You know what, though?
Fax machines.
It might seem funny, but they consider all those vulnerabilities.
Right.
Even those seemingly outdated technologies,
Uh-huh.
they can become entry points for attackers.
Right. So
Even fax machines, they pose a risk.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the key principles IT-Grundschutz recommends.
Okay.
User and access management is a big one.
Huge.
Right.
Absolutely. It's all about locking down your systems,
Right.
keeping those bad guys out.
Keep them out.
Strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, making sure only the right people have access to sensitive information.
And what about data security?
Oh, that's a cornerstone for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Protecting data, whether it's sitting on a server or moving across the network,
Right.
it's paramount.
Imagine if that data fell into the wrong hands.
Oh, the damage
Right.
would be incredible.
Yeah.
Backups are super important, encryption, Even those secure deletion practices.
Okay.
It's all part of that strategy.
And then we can't forget about the human element.
Right.
Because no matter how sophisticated your security tech is,
Yeah.
it can be undermined by human error.
Oh, absolutely.
So IT-Grundschutz emphasizes security awareness training
Yeah.
for all employees.
Knowledge is power, right?
Right.
Especially in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Educating your people about phishing and other attacks.
Social engineering, all that stuff.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's one of the most effective ways to prevent incidents from even happening.
Okay.
So you empower your workforce with that knowledge.
So we've talked about building blocks and principles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, how does IT-Grundschutz view zero trust?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
It's a big buzzword these days.
It really is, yeah.
In cybersecurity.
It's a good one, too.
Yeah.
You know, IT-Grundschutz wasn't explicitly designed with zero trust in mind,
Okay.
but a lot of the principles align with the zero trust model.
Oh, okay.
Things like strong authentication, that granular access control,
Right.
continuous monitoring,
Right.
all key elements.
So while IT-Grundschutz doesn't specifically say you have to implement zero trust,
Right.
it can be interpreted that way
Absolutely.
and implemented in a way that supports that model.
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly it. It provides that solid foundation, a set of principles
Yeah.
that organizations can then use to build on,
Cool.
whether they fully embrace zero trust or not.
Mm-hmm.
Those principles and the guidance
Mm-hmm.
can be really valuable
Right.
on their journey towards
Yeah.
better security and resilience.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about adapting the framework to what your company needs
That
and what
goes-
your context is.
Yeah, it's a flexible framework.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
framework, right?
Okay.
Not a one-size-fits-all.
So more like a toolbox than a rule book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about understanding those principles, applying them
Uh-huh.
to make your security posture both effective
Okay.
and something that aligns with your organization's risk.
So it's about empowering those companies
Yes.
to make their own decision
Informed decisions.
about security, not just checking off boxes.
Absolutely, using that knowledge.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now, one challenge a lot of organizations face
Yeah.
are legacy systems.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Those ghosts of technology past.
exactly, those older systems that are hard to integrate
Right.
and lack a lot of modern security features.
Right.
Well, IT-Grundschutz has you covered.
Okay.
It offers guidance on how to manage that risk.
Uh-huh.
For example, isolating them from the rest of the network,
Okay.
implementing strong access controls,
Okay.
really focusing on patching and vulnerability management.
So you're limiting the damage.
Exactly, minimizing that attack surface.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about a specific building block
Okay.
that often raises questions.
All right.
It's called electronic VS and data carriers, according to Section 2054, and annexes the third V and eighth of the VSA.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
I know, Conendal 11.1,
Okay.
but it deals with something really important.
What's that? Protecting classified information.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we're talking about safeguarding information that could impact national security.
So this is serious stuff.
It is, and
Um,
IT-Grundschutz provides really specific guidance
Okay.
on how to handle this sensitive data.
Okay.
Everything from physical security to access control, encryption requirements.
They don't miss a thing.
They don't.
Okay.
You have to ensure this information is handled really carefully
Right.
and protected from unauthorized disclosure.
Now let's talk about something that's critical but often overlooked.
Okay.
Incident response.
Yes, because no matter how strong your security is,
Right.
incidents are going to happen.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared.
Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And IT-Grundschutz provides that framework for incident response.
Okay, so walk me through this.
Right.
What are the essential elements?
So one of the key building blocks
Right.
is establishment of an emergency response team,
Right.
or DER by 2.1.A8.
This is your A team,
Okay.
the people responsible for coordinating that response.
So you have that dedicated team, they're ready to go.
Yes.
And they all know what to do.
Right. Clear roles and responsibility.
Right, when it hits the fan.
Exactly.
Okay.
And another building block
Yeah.
is containment of the effects of security incidents,
Okay.
or DER by 2.1.A10.
Okay.
And this is all about damage control.
Right, so like contain the breach,
Yes.
isolate those affected systems, stop that malware from spreading.
Prevent further data loss, stop the bleeding.
Okay.
Then, once the immediate threat's contained,
Right.
IT-Grundschutz says you really need to figure out why it happened.
So you switch from firefighting to detective mode?
Exactly. Root cause analysis.
Okay, so that's where you identify those vulnerabilities.
You got it. Learning from your mistakes.
Right, and figuring out how the attacker got in.
And preventing it from happening again.
It's like one of those crime shows where they analyze the crime scene.
Yes. Sometimes you need a specialist.
Okay.
And that's where forensic investigations of IT security incidents comes in.
All right.
Or DER .2.2.
Okay.
This is all about doing that deep dive.
Okay.
Gathering evidence.
Right.
And really understand the attack.
Okay.
So, digital detectives.
Right. Using special tools.
Exactly.
Wait.
Examining the digital evidence.
To trace the attacker's steps.
Yes. And gather that intelligence.
That can help you strengthen your defenses.
Yes. And DER .2.2 doesn't just say, do an investigation.
Right.
It tells you how to do it properly.
Okay.
Preserve that evidence. The chain of custody.
Right.
Even how to work with law enforcement.
Wow.
It's thorough.
Yeah.
And to make sure you're really ready,
Uh-huh.
IT-Grundschutz recommends exercises and training.
So, like fire drills, but for cyber attacks.
Exactly.
Okay.
You simulate incidents and test out those procedures.
That makes sense.
You don't want to find out your plan doesn't work.
Right, when the real thing happens.
Exactly. It's about building security into every stage of that software development lifecycle.
So let's move on to data exchange.
Yep.
We live in a world where data is constantly flowing
All the time.
between systems, applications, organizations even.
It can be tricky from a security perspective.
Right.
You need to make sure that data is protected
Yeah.
throughout those exchanges.
So like within a network, over the internet.
Exactly.
So how does IT-Grundschutz handle this?
Well, there's a building block for that.
Of course there is.
Date exchange, or CON.9.
Okay.
It provides a framework for securing those processes.
Okay.
Covers secure communication protocols, data encryption,
Right.
access control, and data loss prevention measures.
So it's like putting that data in one of those armored trucks.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
to transport it.
Yeah.
You want to make sure nobody can get to it.
Right. No interception or
Yeah.
tampering.
So IT-Grundschutz really stresses those secure mechanisms.
Things like SFTP,
Okay.
Secure File Transfer Protocol, and VPNs.
Right? Virtual private networks.
And then those access controls are key.
Okay.
Making sure only authorized people can access it.
Now, more and more organizations are relying on web-based applications.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we need to talk about securing those applications and services.
They've become so critical for businesses,
Right.
allowing those users to access data from anywhere.
So convenient.
But that also makes them a target
Right.
for attackers.
Okay. So how does IT-Grundschutz deal with this?
There's a building block for that, too.
Okay.
Web applications and web services, or APP.3.1.
Okay.
It offers comprehensive guidance
Okay.
on securing those applications and services.
So like secure coding practices, vulnerability scanning,
All of that, yeah.
strong authentication, secure session management.
Yes, it's all in there.
Okay.
Building security in from the start is key.
And you can't just set it and forget it, right?
No, definitely not.
You have to keep testing
Continuous testing, yeah.
because the threats are always changing.
That's right. New vulnerabilities are always popping up.
Speaking of web applications, we have to talk about web servers.
Right, the workhorses behind those applications.
Yeah.
Serving up web pages to everyone.
And they're exposed to the internet.
They are.
So that's a big security concern.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how do we secure them?
Well, we have web servers, or APP.3.2.
Yep. Another building block?
Another one.
Of course.
This one offers detailed guidance
Okay.
on configuring, hardening, patching, and monitoring.
So you're making those servers as secure as possible.
Yes, really locking them down.
Okay.
Disabling unnecessary services,
Right.
configuring secure protocols,
Uh-huh.
and using intrusion detection and prevention,
Okay.
creating those layers of defense.
And what about file servers?
Oh, those are essential
Yeah.
for storing and sharing files,
Right. They keep businesses running.
and often contain very sensitive data. So security is paramount.
Another building block for that.
File servers, APP.3.3,
Okay. What does that focus on?
access control, encryption,
Backup and recovery.
all important. Monitoring, yes, protecting those files from everything.
So unauthorized access, accidental deletion, even ransomware.
All of those things, yeah.
Wow.
And there's so much file server software out there.
Right.
But IT-Grundschutz actually gets into the specifics
Okay.
for different platforms.
Like what?
Like Samba servers.
Right.
APP 3.4.
That's the software that allows Linux and Windows to talk, right?
Exactly. Sharing those files and printers.
Yeah.
Powerful tool.
Okay.
But you have to configure them correctly.
To prevent that unauthorized access.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what kind of guidance is in there?
It covers access control, authentication,
Okay.
even those secure configuration settings.
Okay, so it prevents unauthorized access,
Yeah.
but still allows legitimate users to do what they need to do.
That's the balance, right?
Right.
It stresses disabling unnecessary features,
Okay.
strong passwords,
Uh-huh.
and really restricting access.
To those sensitive folders.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk about DNS servers.
Oh, the unsung heroes of the internet.
They're so important.
They
They translate those domain names like google.com
Right.
into those numerical IP addresses.
The computers used to communicate without them.
Yeah.
The internet wouldn't work.
And if they get compromised,
Yeah.
big problem.
Huge disruptions.
Right.
Attackers could redirect traffic to malicious websites,
Oh, wow.
steal data, even take down websites.
So IT-Grundschutz has a building block for that. Right.
DNS servers, APP 3.6,
What kind of guidance does it give?
secure configuration, hardening,
Patching, monitoring,
all in there.
and DNSSCC.
Oh yeah, DNSSCC is crucial.
Domain name system security extensions.
Yes, it adds that extra layer of encryption
Okay.
and authentication to those DNS lookups.
So it prevents those spoofing attacks.
Exactly.
Okay.
And those redirects to malicious websites.
Now let's talk about SAP ERP systems.
Okay, those are powerful systems.
Right. Enterprise resource planning.
Yeah, they handle a ton of sensitive data.
So security is vital.
Absolutely.
A building block for this.
SAP ERP systems, APP 4.5,
Okay.
provides guidance on securing them.
So access control, authentication, configuration, monitoring.
It's all there.
So you're protecting those systems
Yeah.
from
Unauthorized access,
data breaches,
Yeah.
disruptions.
everything.
IT-Grundschutz really stresses strong access controls
Absolutely.
and using those secure communication protocols
Yeah.
and auditing everything.
Regularly.
Okay, let's talk about relational databases.
Okay.
They store so much data.
The heart of many IT systems.
Right.
So much data.
Okay, so securing them is essential.
It is for protecting information, keeping data integrity.
Making sure those systems are always available.
Yeah.
So there's a building block.
You know,
Right.
relational databases, APP.4.3.
Okay.
Strong access controls, encrypting that sensitive data.
Backups,
It's
monitoring.
all there.
So protecting those databases from those attacks.
Unauthorized access, data breaches, disruptions.
Wow, it's amazing how much this covers.
Databases are a prime target. You know?
All right.
So IT-Grundschutz gives you those tools
Yeah.
to keep them safe.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
IT-Grundschutz is so comprehensive.
It really is, yeah.
And at first, it might seem overwhelming,
It can, yeah.
but it's actually pretty practical.
It is. It empowers organizations to really take control
Right.
and build that secure environment.
And it's not just a one-time thing.
Right.
Security is an ongoing process.
The journey.
You have to stay vigilant,
Inform.
adapt to those threats.
IT-Grundschutz is that foundation,
Okay.
but each organization needs to build on it,
Okay.
create that security culture.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into IT-Grundschutz.
That was a deep one.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.